Hi, this is Nathan Lehman with the Ultra Running Company, and thank you very much for joining us for another shoe review. Really excited to talk about our shoe today in its 6th generation. We're going to talk about the Hoka One Clifton 6. For those of you that have watched our reviews in the past, you know I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with the Clifton. We did a review on the Clifton OG, the first generation Clifton, a few months back. And I pointed out that basically there were a lot of things good about it, the lightweight, the high cushion level, some things that really changed the running shoe industry. But what people had forgotten were there were also some things that were pretty tough about it. The fit was a little bit sloppy, the material wasn't that amazing. So what they did over the generations was they kept improving the material that they used, they kept improving the cushion, and by the time they got to the 5th generation, they had a shoe that was by all measurements a better shoe than the OG Clifton, but I just didn't love it as much. And so I'm really excited with this Clifton 6 to say that, in my opinion, Hoka's kind of taken all the best aspects of the Clifton over the past 6 years and kind of put those learnings into one place and made a pretty terrific shoe. Let's kind of jam through this and tell you what I think, and then we'll look forward to hearing your thoughts on it in our comments section later on. So the Ultra Running Company, we categorize all our shoes the same way. For our perspective, this is a comfort cushion, low drop road shoe. What you're gonna see here is a two-part base to the shoe. Basically, everywhere that it's white is a softer, more pillowy type cushion. Everywhere that you see that this one is red is a harder kind of carbon-based rubber. So what you're gonna get on that carbon-based rubber is that's where your wear is typically going to be. Typically, folks are either gonna heel strike or land on their midfoot. For heel strikers, they've added a little bit of that carbon in the back. For midfoot strikers, and anytime you're pushing off on the shoe, you've got some of that carbon on the front. They have spread it out. They've changed the tread design on this a little bit, where they're putting this high abrasion rubber, trying to get rid of some of that typical look of wearing off in this area. Anytime you see this exposed cushioning rubber, that's going to wear off quickly. It's usually pretty cosmetic, but they're just trying to rearrange that. So the challenge that the Clifton has is that they're trying to keep it super lightweight while also giving you a little bit more life, trying to get over a few hundred miles for a shoe. Basically, this amount of rubber does a pretty good job of that. We're about 150 or so miles into our pair, and we're seeing where you'd expect it. So we're seeing wear across the red portions. I tend to wear out any kind of maximal shoe right in this area. As I come down on my midfoot, I'll scrape a little bit, my heel comes down and I scrape a little bit here. I notice that more on highly cushioned shoes than I do on shoes with less rubber. So may just be something with my form, but it's pretty consistent across all shoes, and we're seeing that in this. So the magic of this shoe really comes in that after 4 generations or so, certainly in the Clifton 4 and 5, they started to make this rubber quite a bit harder. They're actually, I believe, using the same rubber they use in the Hoka Bondi. In the Clifton. They've certainly softened that up quite a bit in the Clifton 6. So what we've done is reverted back to the original feel of the Clifton. You're gonna land in this shoe and it's gonna compress under your body weight. So this is the most pillowy Clifton that I've seen, at least since the 3rd generation. I think it feels a lot like that 1st generation Clifton, where you're really landing in it, you're feeling that your weight kind of push down and then bounce back up. Pillowy, kind of almost a Tempur-Pedic type feel. There's also a lot of cushion here. So this shoe measures out at 30 millimeters in the heel and 25 millimeters in the forefoot for a 5 millimeter heel to toe offset. So as with all Hokas, you're sitting down inside like a little bucket, and that gives you kind of right through here, that gives you a very stable side-to-side feeling. Now in a shoe like the Clifton, you're kind of compromising some of that lateral stability for that soft feel, and then since you're sitting inside, it gives you more of that stable feeling. I would not use this shoe for something like body weight gym workouts or anything where you're going side to side in the shoe. You're gonna get just a little bit of that side to side movement in this shoe. So what it's great for is running forward in a straight line, walking around all day. Anytime you're putting that comfort over an actual accurate, stable environment. So it's not like you're gonna fall off the side of this shoe. You're right down inside of it and very comfortable, but that's important to point out when you have a shoe whose cushion is now this soft. I think we've gone back to the original Clifton as far as comfort underfoot, and where they've really made an improvement is comfort over the foot. They've put in some really nice mesh top on this. It's 2 layers, so you can kind of see the top layer. They've got some openings to a secondary layer. It's bonded together, so it feels like one layer throughout. It's just kind of knitted in there. It's got some pieces that stabilize right along the toe to give it its shape. But this is a shoe that really hugs your foot right in. One of the things that we've seen on past versions of the Clifton, especially in the 4 and the 5, was a very high arch. Because they've softened up both the cushion and the upper material on this shoe, that arch is much less noticeable. From personal experience, I would have to go to the Clifton wide in the 4 and the 5 because of that protruding arch and because the upper was quite a bit stiffer. In the Clifton 6, I'm back down to the normal width of the shoe. They still offer a wide in the Clifton. There's a couple shoes across the Hoka lineup where they do offer a wider shoe, and that's going to add a millimeter, I think 2 millimeters on the outside to get it to a double E, but it's not as necessary in the Clifton 6 as it was for folks without that super high arch in the Clifton 4 and 5. Again, the material hugs around your foot, so what you're getting is locked in the heel, locked in over your arch, and then nice kind of compliant upper here that allows your toes to move around. This is not kind of a foot-shaped toe box. This is a traditional tapered toe box, but this material is compliant enough that it allows your toes to move around. I tend to think of myself as having kind of a traditionally shaped foot, not too wide, not too narrow, and this shoe fits me very, very well. Again, you put those two things together, and what you get is a lightweight shoe with a lot of cushion. When I say lightweight, Hoka advertises this as being a 9-ounce shoe, but as always, that's in a men's size 9, which is a pretty small shoe size. The average foot for folks coming to the ultra running company is between 10.5 and a 12. In my big old kicks, size 13, this is an 11-ounce shoe. So there's kind of this mythical 10-ounce target. That's really for folks that have a smaller foot. There aren't that many shoes that can get under 10 ounces in a size 13. This one comes pretty close with 11 ounces. Now, an important caveat for that is if you do decide to go with the wide version, that does add a little bit of weight. When you look at all the websites, they're all reviewing the regular D-width shoe. And so if you go to a wide, you're adding on, in size 13, about 6/10 of an ounce. So the wide comes in at 11.6 ounces. Still a very lightweight shoe, but there is a difference when you do add that extra width, just because you're adding more material. Finally, laces and shoe. Basically, tongue has a little bit of padding. When the Clifton started out, it was a paper thin one. Some people complained about how that rubbed on them and how it moved around. This tongue is a little bit thicker than that. It holds onto your foot very well, and it works with the insole, which is actually a pretty thick, high quality insole in this shoe. It works with this insole, which is about 5 millimeters, to really wrap your foot up and kind of highlight that really comfortable feel. So we're going to get a lot of questions on our page comparing this with a new shoe from Hoka called the Rincon. Definitely, it's a good question. We will go into a full review of the Rincon for the sake of expediting your decision process. If you are looking for a very soft shoe, a shoe that kind of holds you in, gives you a little bit of hug and compresses under you and gives you that great all-day kind of cushy Tempur-Pedic feel, this is the shoe for you. If you're looking for a shoe that has a little bit more spring to it, a little lighter weight, and maybe a little go faster, then you're gonna probably want to take a good look at that Rincon. The other decision point between the two is that this Clifton is $130, which is basically the price that it's been since it was introduced. Great shoe, really nice price point for it. You're gonna get an average amount of miles out of this shoe. So this isn't the longest wearing Hoka in the lineup. When we look at 300 to 500 miles out of a shoe, shoe. I tend to get a little bit more than that on road shoes. So my personal experience is I tend to get somewhere between 400 and 600 miles on a road shoe. This is falling right in the meat of that. So 400 or 500 miles on this shoe. It's still comfortable. We're waiting to see because we've only got about 150 miles on this shoe so far. Because this is a softer cushion, it is going to tend to what we call pack down a little bit. So towards the end of that lifespan, this shoe is going to be feel like it has a little bit less depth to it. Basically, your wear is going to come on the bottom is where you're really going to see it. This upper should hold up really, really well. So bottom line, we think this is a great improvement on the Clifton line. It's kind of taking the very best of the first version with the very best of the latest versions, jamming them together and making what I think arguably is the best Clifton to date. So we really think it's worth your time. If you have a local store near you, please support your local stores. Try on the Clifton. Most everybody's going to carry this that carries Hokas, and we think you'll be really happy with it. If you have moved away from the Clifton over the past couple years, this is the shoe that's going to get you back in feeling like you felt 5 years ago when you put it on, kind of that wow feel. We think it's worth a shot. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please post any questions that you have on our page, and if you want to subscribe, my understanding is that does something good for us, but we really just want you to watch. Thanks for watching. Learn to love to run.